Hello!
Hello.
Welcome! I am Chloe, and I am here at Turtle Rock Studios, and joining me today is a very familiar face to most of you, Mr. Dave Blank, DV Sinclair, and he's come down to say hi and hang out with us here at Turtle Rock, so you get all that awesomeness. Yay! Dave, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, excited to be here. All under one roof, hanging out one roof.
One.
Maybe a roof.
Hey, words are hard.
Yeah, where's the words? We're hanging out here, and we're going to be seeing some Evolve today. Pretty excited.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about a balance update. We got a patch coming out, and we've got Chris, who's going to be here for most of the stream. Dave and I are going to switch out, and you're actually going to see us play. So I'm going to go and play the first game in a second, and Chris will come in and talk about all the balance notes. We've got them in slides, so you guys can see them. Please ask us your questions. This is for us to sort of run stuff by you and see what you think. So this is going to be coming out soon. If it's not live already, I think it's.
Yeah, it's on the consoles right now.
That's
and then,
right.
Moving its way towards PC. Should be later tonight. Yeah, very exciting. Balance changes.
Yeah, no, we're very excited, and we're going to get into the details. We're going to start off with Behemoth game, focusing on all of his changes. He's our newest monster, and as such, we release them into the wild and then go, oh, we didn't think you guys would do blah, so then we change things. So Chris is going to go into all of that, and on that note, I think I'm just going to let our fearless leader come on in here, and I'm going to go play. So enjoy.
It is sort of the best of all worlds, getting to see us on the sticks with some other people here.
Yeah.
From Turtle Rock.
Come on in, Chris.
Get the legend here, Mr. Chris Ashton.
Hey, how's it going?
I can't say words today, Chris.
Yeah? Notice I have less beard.
Yeah.
I think so do you.
Yeah.
As the stress and the sleep come back, then...
Yeah, I don't wake up with it in my mouth anymore, so that's nice.
Yeah. I still got some, though.
Yeah?
So what are we talking about? We're talking about patch stuff. It's patch day today.
Yeah, patch day.
That's awesome. I'm really excited. Now, we're going to see now in the future, very regularly, we're going to see updates. So there's a lot of stuff, I think a lot of stuff we need to catch up on, especially now I think the community is officially caught up with us.
Sure.
As far as skill levels and stuff like that, and we're seeing people do a lot of new things that we've never seen before. So now our job kind of changes from before we were doing exclusively development, and now we're actually there's quite a large percentage of the staff still working on the original game.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like you said, the world out there has caught up and in some cases surpassed the skill level of a lot of us. So whereas we were out there educating people on the game as you were developing the game, now it's at a point, a pretty awesome point, where we can all sit back and see how the world has ingested it and what they're doing with it. And like you said, now you can come in and do those more frequent patches.
I got to watch the ESL tournament this past weekend, so that was really exciting. Definitely a lot of skilled play there, and a lot of meta game that's coming around now that we haven't seen before. So eager to be able to stay on the game. And this is the first of our what we call micro patching, which is smaller balance only updates across all platforms, just to kind of address characters. And obviously for our first set of characters, we had alpha and beta period, and we had a lot of people jumping in and playing those characters, and we didn't get that opportunity with Behemoth and Team D. So it's understandable they came out and needed some work, and primarily we focused for this micro patch. Primarily we focused on Behemoth to try to get number one priority for us. Everybody on the community kind of clued in pretty quick. The weak spot on his stomach was too big, so that was the number one thing for us, was to reduce that down to where it should have been, and that. He still takes a lot of damage quickly because he's so big, but I think a lot of that extra damage was coming from that 2x multiplier, so we reduced that. And then we did a lot of work to make his abilities more reliable, a little more responsive, quicker, more snappy feeling. So we're excited to see, we did make really minor changes to his health and armor, and felt like what we wanted to do was make the abilities more responsive, fix his weak spot, and then we'll put it out, and we'll start looking at telemetry again. We'll look at the data, how the games are going, listen and see what players are saying about it, see where it's at, and then if we need to make more adjustments in the future, we will.
Awesome.
But that's where it started, was Behemoth. And then we did a little bit of work to a bunch of the existing characters as well. So I suppose we can...
Yeah, quite a lot of stuff to go through. A lot of good stuff going into this patch.
Yeah. And we've already started on the next patch. So we got this patch finalized and started testing towards the end of last week. And so changes since then are going into the following patch. So we're already working on the next bit. So they're gonna play with these changes, right? They're gonna play with the current build. So we'll get to see some new adjustments on them.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the patch notes.
Are we gonna put those up? Cool.
Yeah, so this is the patch itself and the notes that accompany it. It's a rather big list compared to what we've seen previously, and as you mentioned, the majority of that is Behemoth.
Yeah, and it's a lot of changes that we could make in the data. So just tuning like number changes in there. But we can see almost all of his abilities got tweaked a little bit. The only one that didn't, I think, was Lava Bomb. We left that one alone. But all of these other abilities got some adjustment. And again, just to make them more responsive, snappier, and to make them more reliable. So we spent a lot of time with the rock walls when you spawn them up. You really want to be able to depend on that. You'd spawn them up under hunters, and there would be a hole in them. And so we make sure we made the rock walls come up a little bit slower, and we push hunters back at a better angle to get them out of the way by the time the rock wall comes up, so there won't be holes. This still can happen if they get pushed against each other or pushed against a wall or something, but in general, it should be a lot more reliable.
And that's to keep them from pushing them into the internal of some other geometry.
Yeah, right? We don't want them to get stuck inside of the rock walls themselves or get pushed through the terrain and stuff. So what we do is when the wall comes up, we do a check to see if they're there or not, and if they are, then we break the wall. And so what's happening was the wall was coming up super fast before the hunters, even though hunters like getting knocked away, the rock wall would come up too fast, and then it would dissipate.
Okay. So it was doing the check. It was seeing that it was there, and because it was happening so quickly, it was calculating that there was going to be something in the way, and then it wasn't putting the rock there.
Yep. Fissure, I like Fissure a lot better. So what used to happen before with Fissure was while you were aiming, it would lock 60% of the way through, and then it would launch. So if you were following a target, a hunter was like moving to the side, and you were following, keeping the crosshair on them with Fissure, it would shoot off, and it would be behind them.
Got it.
So now it fires the Fissure effect at the same time that the hands finally hit the ground, and is a lot more on target. You still have to lead for targets that are away, but it's a lot more responsive. Tongue grab goes out, grabs the target, comes back. All that stuff happens quicker. So we were finding that hunters, you would go to tongue grab hunter, and they're jetpacking, and maybe the time that the tongue comes out and then hits them, and it sticks for a little while, and then they fall behind the rock, and then it breaks the tongue, and you didn't get the chance to pull, even though you hit them.
Sure.
Right. So all that stuff happens a lot quicker, which means that it's gonna be more reliable. You'll still have cases where you'll miss, but.
And you had that delay on there sort of for effect, right?
Yeah, it was for a feel thing. So it was kind of like the tongue would come out and go snap and just kind of hold for a second so everybody could see it. But that 1 second, they would fall and get out of your line of sight. So it's like a third of a second now. So it's much quicker.
Awesome. So we have a lot of changes here to Behemoth, and we're going to jump into the game and see a Behemoth game. I'm excited to see what the team here, what hunters they select, because as we've mentioned in previous live streams on both ours and yours, the hunters that we select at 2K are sometimes completely different than you guys would select. So it's always fun to see the combinations.
Everybody has their favorites. So yeah, I saw these guys were going to go with Lazarus, which is an interesting one. And I actually really like, a lot of people now are taking Lazarus with Sunny, because Sunny's with her jetpack booster, she can get Lazarus out of trouble more often. and so that's proving to be a real nice combo. Actually, Lazarus's win rate has gone up quite a lot since Sunny's come into the game, probably more so than any other character. So that's an interesting combination that we didn't really expect or think about. So
very cool.
Fun to see that stuff.
It's interesting how there are those, and you spoke to it a little bit before when you're talking about how developing the game, you do see certain things on like a regular almost pattern of things and way things turn out in gameplay and the various combinations that you have. And then now that we're out in the wild, there's just so many unexpected moments in the game, which is I get the opportunity to cast and talk about the game on a good frequency. So there are so many opportunities to see things that are brand new, or like when we did the Pro-Am at PAX East, Sakura was bringing up things that I'd never even thought of with different aspects of the game. So very cool to get to this point and to be able to see all the new combinations, all the new strong combinations of characters that you would have never expected before.
Yeah. So we did too. If you're interested in the data, telemetry, that sort of things, you can go to our forums. We have a thread there called Telemetry and Balance, and we post a lot of graphs, and we posted a lot of really interesting telemetry before and afters on the characters that were adjusted for the 1.2 patch. So you're able to go there and see how Cabot's faring now, since a lot of people were worried that he was over, kind of over nerfed, but the numbers look really, really good now. They've really slotted in. So our primary concern with this update was Behemoth, as we said. We also made some adjustments to Team D, but only on their damage side, because with their other pieces of gear, things like a lot of people are asking about Sunny's jetpack booster. Is it too much? And a lot of times with brand new mechanics like that, there is a risk of reacting too quickly.
Sure.
There's a meta game of like hunters learning how to use that effectively, monsters trying to figure out how to counter it, and you want to let all of that stuff play out and settle and become stabilized before you start adjusting it. Damage is something everybody understands. It's something we have real clear telemetry on. So damage is always kind of the first thing we want to bring in line first, and damage will affect the game. Obviously, if the hunters, in the case of Team D, they were doing too much damage, so they're going to close out games a lot quicker just because the monster runs out of health sooner. Right? And so we don't really know. By eliminating damage from the variables, once we get damage into the right place, then we'll know if teams with Sunny on them are dominating, then we know that it's either the shield drone or the jetpack booster, and we can start looking into it a little closer there. So we approach these things very strategically, these balance adjustments, and it is one adjustment at a time. And this is stuff we were doing through 4 years of development on the game, so we're very used to this. And the challenge for us since release on Evolve was getting to a situation where we would be able to make balance updates very regularly. And so that's what this one is all about now, is after 1.2 we were able to do micro patches. And so this is our first micro patch. We got it through fairly quickly, about a week from the time where we said, okay, this is what we want in the patch, to the time that it had gone through the verification process and been released. So that's a pretty quick turnaround. So let's see, Behemoth, I've just seen a lot of, he gets trapped for the first time. I have seen a lot of him running and eating. They threw down and they didn't trap him.
Yeah, he was out of the arena, but he was stuck on a tree stump, it looked like.
Yeah.
So he got around that. Even the mighty Behemoth, has things that are a little bit more powerful than him out in the environment. But yeah, as you mentioned, to damage, you have a pretty good indicator of whether it's too high or too low, because the health bar and the armor bar are such visible things to go by. But with, like you mentioned, things with the jetpack booster, there are more variables to what could be making that overpowered, for lack of a better word, right? And you really have to get in and see how people are using it, and in what scenarios they're using it in, and who they're using it with.
Yeah, and it's something that you don't really, it's harder to get data on that, right? It's harder for us to have a telemetry system that you have to correlate a lot of stuff, right? With damage, we can just spit out damage for every character in every game,
right?
And we can look at all that, and we can find situations where characters are doing too much or not enough. That's very easy. But with the jetpack booster, it becomes a lot harder to sort of directly correlate that with wins and losses. So we just take a little more time. We don't want to sort of kill something before it has a chance to live, really. So. One of the things that Behemoth, as far as tips for playing Behemoth now, he is a trickier monster. It seems like a tanky, heavy-hitting monster would be really straightforward, but I think the fact that he is slow really challenges a lot of brand new players. It's something that we saw with the release of Behemoth, is that a lot of players were trying to figure out, well, you have to learn all over again how to be a monster, because he's not, all the other monsters, Kraken, Wraith, Goliath, they're all very, very mobile when they're fighting, and Behemoth just isn't. And he has to rely on bringing the hunters to him, or making sure that they can't escape by using the rock wall. So you have to really learn, and some people are getting it now. We're starting to see Behemoth numbers come up after a week of being online, a couple weeks. So here we'll see him. I find I have the best luck when I start to chain things. So I'll tongue grab a guy in, I'll do a fissure to knock him in the air, and then I'll do a lava bomb right at his feet where he's going to land, and those are 3 attacks in a row. And it feels like if I can land those chains, I'll start dropping the team very quickly. But if I start missing those chains, if I miss the fissure, if I miss the tongue, if I miss any piece of that, and I do that over and over, if I keep missing, then I'll lose.
I had that same experience with Behemoth on the games where I was able to get those combos, and there's some great combo possibilities with this monster, which was the first thing when I started seeing his abilities in action, realizing the potential for combos, like you mentioned, almost juggling like you would do in Street Fighter or something like that, which is really cool. When I started to miss those and not land those, because they are some pretty skill shots for some of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a harder time. But as we go into the patch information for Behemoth here, one thing I just thought of, so there was a reduction to hunter knockback and to damage from the roll.
Right. Yeah.
One thing that I just thought of, though, is that Behemoth, I noticed, has a harder time of getting hunters when they are able to jetpack up in the air. As Goliath can get up there with them, Kraken, of course, is normally up above them anyway. This actually might work in the Behemoth's favor, because he's knocking those hunters back less than normal. They're going to be in range for more of his melee attacks, and to be able to use those combos like you mentioned.
Yeah, so where that came from was a couple things. So there was a couple really issues that came out of it, and it's one of these things where, like, Turtle Rock Studios, we kind of develop a particular play style. 2K always develops a different play style because we're different pools of players.
Sure.
And so it's just something, the roll to melee attack cycle, that's just something that neither of our groups started doing a lot, and it turns out that you can do that really, really quickly in the game right now. And so what people were doing, figured out pretty quickly, was that they could roll into somebody, which gives them a knockback, and then they could melee attack out of that, which would give them a knockback, and then they could go back into the roll and put them in a knockback, and then do a heavy again. And so what we wanted to do is break that cycle.
Yeah.
So now he'll do, if you roll and do your first attack, will be a heavy, and if you roll and do another attack, it'll be a light this time. If it's within 4 seconds of the heavy.
Got it.
And so what that's going to do is that the light won't knock them back, which leaves the player in control, so they can jetpack dodge and that sort of thing. The reduced knockback on the roll, although you're right, it keeps the hunters closer to him, so he's still within damage range. It also means that as a hunter, I get control sooner. because I'm not knocked as far, I get control sooner. So it feels better for both groups.
Yeah, it's the difference of the not fun juggle, where you're just constantly stun locked the whole time, which you see in like some MMOs and stuff like that, where it just becomes kind of old because you just feel helpless, and it's like, why am I doing this? And to where the juggling you were talking about before, or the combos you were talking about before, are strictly skill to get all those and hit them all in order. Right. Whereas this was just mashing buttons and keeping somebody locked up, which isn't fun, probably for both sides.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it was effective, but when Behemoth just comes down to roll melee, and people aren't using their abilities and stuff, then it really starts to break down. So, and right now with the micro patch stuff, we can tune things, and so that was a way for us to tune to make that less effective. And so now hopefully we made abilities more effective and the melee roll spam less effective. So hopefully people start to come back and lean on abilities. So
good fight here. Behemoth just getting to stage 3, spending his final 3 points. Looks like he left out tongue grab, so he's going Fissure, Lava Bomb, Wall.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a hard time when I don't take tongue grab. Tongue grab, at least 1 point in it for me is I always have to have that. But that rock wall at level 3 is so big that maybe he's thinking he doesn't need to bring them to him. He's just going to trap them in there.
It looked like he hesitated there for a second, deciding whether or not he was going to take that utility or not. And as you mentioned, Lazarus in the game, and they did have a pretty good fight with the Behemoth behind that factory area, and no strikes on any of the hunters. So we did see at least half the team go down, but Lazarus was able to get him back up.
Yeah, that's that dirty old Lazarus, that guy. Hey, there's a question, it looks like, people talking about new Val healing burst. So this is something I talked about on the forums. It's not in this patch, right? It's not in this one.
No, there's nothing. Val has the trank gun.
Okay. So this is something I talked about on the forums a little bit. Previously, Val was sharing heal burst with Kyra. So she was kind of locked into Kyra's whatever values we did for. So if we buffed Val's heal burst a little bit, it would affect Kyra, and we don't want to do that. So I was able to, just in the data, just on the tuning side, separate Val's out, her self-healing burst. So right now we're experimenting with, and this is something I talked about, we're working on the next micro patch already. We're experimenting with giving Val more self-heal from the heal burst than she has. We're leaving her heal burst the same for her teammates, just giving her more. Right? Just to make her more tanky. Where Lazarus can cloak and hide from the monster, and Val can self-heal with the grenade, or Kyra can self-heal with the healing grenades. Slim can use that Spore Cloud to kind of hide his movements inside of there. Val just really didn't have anything. The tranks really aren't quite enough to protect her. So we thought, well, what if we let her heal herself more with this heal burst? And the interesting thing about it so far is it's very bursty. So because this has such a long cooldown, but it's such a large amount of heal burst that you can negate some of that, like some big damage. So in playtesting, I've been able to take a rock throw, a pretty nasty rock throw, and recover from that really well. But if I take too many of those, if I take 2 or 3 of those, then I'm out.
Right.
But it just helps her survivability, so that's something that we're playing around with right now.
And it makes sense too, I think, with her, because she has the med gun, which she can use to heal her teammates. Then in this case, she can be sort of selfish with that heal burst and use it on herself to keep herself alive.
And then the last update we did increase the rate at which you could heal players, so it seems like that might work. So another question. Any changes for the wildlife buff values? Most definitely. So that's probably not going... I don't know if it's going to be in the next micro patch, if it's going to be in micro patch number 2, or if it's going to be in micro patch number 3, but we want to make a full sweep over character perks and the wildlife buffs, both. We think there's some of them that are underpowered, and we think there's some of them that are overpowered. So we want to make a pass on that. So interested, like I'll probably put up a new thread on the forums and just kind of ask people what their thoughts are across the board for those, where people think they should be, so we can just kind of get more data, get more information from the community, and try to make a more educated update with those. Let's see. Oh, new dialogue. Yes. I'm not sure, is that in... I'm not sure what update that's in. If it's... but we have new dialogue coming for Team D characters talking to the original cast on the dropship, as well as a lot more original character conversations. So you'll hear conversations with Val and Hank and stuff, ones that you've never heard before.
Awesome.
So that stuff's coming. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember what update that's in, but it's definitely coming.
That's really cool. It's always fun to hear new bands.
Yeah, some of them are conversations that we actually had before, but they weren't playing for a particular... we had settings on there where they weren't playing.
Dodged a dome.
I think that's the second time he's done that in this game. So he's stage 3 now. So this is going to be... He's stage 3. He's got a pretty good chunk of health there.
Yeah.
This is going to be tough. It's going to be a big fight, isn't it? It's going to be a brawl because the hunters have no strikes. Behemoth is stage 3, and he's going to go get... So one thing we did was we gave him 2 more bars of armor, and we also let him earn armor at a little faster rate. So all the other monsters, they earn 1 meat equals 1 bar of armor.
Yeah.
For Behemoth, it equals 1 1/4.
Oh, awesome!
It's a small change, but by the time you eat 4 or 5 meats, that equates to 4 meats would equal 5 armor instead. For
sure.
him, so.
I remember that was a concern from some people at the beginning, and seeing those questions on the forums about will you ever be able to fill up your armor all the way as a stage 3?
Yeah, and that's what we were seeing actually was when we would watch tourneys or at least streams. We would see that even though Behemoth had more armor, more max armor available than the other monsters, most of the time, by the time they got domed and they had to fight, they didn't have more. They didn't have their max. Because it just took so much time to fill that up.
Yeah.
But yet he burns it off quicker than all the other monsters because he's such a big, slow target. So we wanted to try this. We wanted to see if he earns it. So in our mind, it's kind of like he's a little more efficient because he's slower moving. He's a little more efficient with that energy that he gets, converts more of it to armor.
Sure.
So
scientifically, it makes sense.
Yeah, works for us.
He did get a strike on Daisy, so that pesky trap job.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, get her out of there.
Yeah, you can see a ton of weak spots from Lazarus. So it could definitely help this fight here. They're just dancing around the top at the moment, staying out.
Yeah, and this is one of the things this is where, if it's me, this is, so right, he didn't take tongue grab, right?
No tongue grab.
And I think this is really going to hurt him right here because this is one of those scenarios where I've fought in this place so many times as Behemoth and I had no problem because I just yanked them all down.
Yeah.
And then I wrecked them once they were on the ground. So, he's going to have a hard time because he's going to, every time he's going to go up there after him, they're going to drop down. And his rock wall's going to have a hard time blocking them on the ground, so maybe not the bestest.
Yeah, especially because he did stage up out in the forest. He knew he was having to come back to the fusion plant power relay here.
If you're going for 3, I think you got to put at least 1 point into tongue. He just does not have enough mobility, I think, to survive without it. And especially even in here, the fissure, because the fissure will go up a straight surface, but it's not going to go up a catwalk. That's right. It won't go up overhangs.
Up and under, and then up and in,
it won't go up overhangs. So even fissure is not going to work for him very well inside of here.
So he's starting to use his rock wall as a means of transportation.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. He almost kind of has to do that to get at them where he wants them because, as you mentioned, they're just going up and down and just sort of strafing around him.
Is that I don't see if that was an elite. I recall he was just going to go get food. I think they don't have elites on.
Yeah, a little bit of armor, maybe.
Well, there's a nice... I love to do that, by the way. One of the most fun things, one of the most gratifying things was like when you're going to eat and the hunters start pecking at you like they always do with any other monster, and then you just put up the wall and you're like, no, seriously, I'm going to eat this, and you're not going to stop me.
A good counter to that, Cabot?
Yeah, Cabot, yeah. And I haven't actually faced too many Cabots when I had a rock wall, but that would definitely be a counter for that.
We did see the orbital drop on him, but it was not enough there to really set him back too much, and he did get the armor, but they've managed to get his armor down again. This is going to be a tough fight for him. As he went into this fight, he had over half health, and now he's under.
Yeah, I think it's the abilities. I think that his choices, they're putting him in a rough spot. The Hunter's just too mobile in this space.
Yeah, as we know with Goliath, and the more obvious one for that counter would be Kraken, who we mentioned would be up in the air and maybe even above these guys as they're trying to drop down. Goliath can jump and sort of knock down the Hunters out of the air. Rock throws are a good way to get them scattered and kind of where you want them. But yeah, right now he just has no utility to control the crowd, and it's going to be tough.
There he goes.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah, they're just going up and down.
They're just working him over in here. I think it's game over for Behemoth.
Yeah, not much of a way to recover here unless he can somehow get one of them separated and outside. But the jukes are real with this team.
Yep, there it is.
Though,
gotta tell Sam.
Worth noting,
though, practice.
His survivability, though, obviously massively increased here.
Yeah, I think. The build that they had wasn't the super high damage build of Hunters, and that's kind of where I think Cabot Markov combo is pretty nasty on Behemoth because he just soaks that damage. But yeah, I mean it was a long fight, so I think he can stay in there longer. It definitely has room to work now.
And as you mentioned, it was his fight to win, but it goes to show how important skill choices are.
Yeah, abilities, it can make or break. And I've been practicing Behemoth as we've been making these balance number adjustments. I've been practicing playing solo and trying different abilities and combinations and stuff, and I find that I always want at least 1 point in tongue. It just gives me so many more options, and so I can deal with so many more situations because of that.